I'm excited. Why? Because we are looking at another topic, very interesting topic, strangers to spouses. Yes, strangers to spouses. This looks like, a follow-up of our last Zoom meeting, which was finding love on the internet. Yeah, this is like a follow-up. In getting ready, Timmy, the precious, lady that, handles the Fafi social media, you know, sent in. I said, "Oh, Mama, what do we look at today?" I said, "Okay, what do you have in mind? What's trending?" And she brought up some topics and then some issues, and then we tried to give it a topic. And then when she coined up this topic during the chat while we were chatting, I got excited. I said, "Yeah, this, caught me." It caught me. Why? Because I feel this is something we should talk about. Sometimes we think that it's all marriages that happen because the two people met, fell in love, and got to know each other before they eventually decided to get married. But I want you to know that marriage happens in various ways. So I got excited, and I decided to look into this. And while the moment the topic caught me, strangers, to spouses, the moment it caught me, I began to look and wonder in my mind what perspective to look at it from. Do I look at it from the perspective of two people who met in a bus, got talking, exchanged numbers, and few weeks or months later called each other up, and papa, they now got married? Or do I look at it from a perspective of two people who bumped into each other with the ladies, a shopping bag, the things in a shopping bag thrown on the floor, and then the guy goes on to help pick it up, and then from there on and on and on and on, something happens, and then they exchange numbers, and today they are happily married? Or do I look at it from the arranged marriage perspective? Two people who never met, parents just sat somewhere, arranged the marriage, introduced them, and gave them time. Some will even give them time to see if they could bond and allow them to decide whether they will still want to marry. Some other, on the other hand, just did the marriage without, without wondering, giving them time, or giving them that privilege of knowing if they would really bond before getting married. They just married for them. They married and post the wife to the man wherever he is. And because they have respect for their parents, in some extreme cases, they just go ahead and marry the person or accept the person their spouses or their parents sent out to them out of respect for their parents. Now, the question is it possible to meet a stranger and end up falling in love and growing the love to the point of marriage? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. I've heard of it. I have seen it happen at various levels. And I've also read about it. True life story. The first time I really heard it live with somebody sharing was some years back, over 10 years now. I was in a pre-wedding ceremony, traditional marriage ceremony. No, it was a pre-wedding ceremony parents organized, and I got friends together to celebrate with them because their daughter was going to be getting married. And then somebody stood up there and now gave a story of how he met his wife. How did they meet? They boarded the same bus and then stopped at the same bus stop and end up going to the same office and found that they were going to see the same person. And the person they were going to see happened to be the brother of the lady. And that was how they began to talk. As at the time he was sharing that story, they were over 10 years married, total strangers, and then they became what? Spouses. And I also I've heard firsthand one precious daughter of mine. How did she meet her husband? She went to the market to buy some things, and the bag, her shopping bag, busted, and everything in the bag just fell out. And as she just went, oh, quickly a man from nowhere just came and quickly helped her to started picking up the things, tried to get a bag, and started trying to help her put the things in the bag. They had never met before. She never knew him. And then what happened? Mm-hmm. Like joke and play, these two people began to show. She went, oh, thank you so much. And he said, oh, no, don't mention. So sorry about that. And before he knew what was happening, they exchanged numbers. Today, they are married 3 years into the marriage. 3 years into the marriage, they have 2 kids and they are happy. In fact, a few days back, she gave testimony on how the in-laws, everybody just love her as if they had known her forever. So it's possible to have strangers turn into spouses. And I also heard of a story. This was not a friend. The person actually came because the person came to meet with me and was telling me how they met. She and her husband never met. The husband wasn't in town. She didn't grow up. The parents happened to be friends, and the parents organized. She had never met the guy, and then the parents organized for them to come together. And when they grew up, they wanted to maintain their friendship, so they decided to use their children to maintain the friendship. So the parents organized and they told them, I would like you to meet this person. We would like 2 of you to marry, blah, 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 blah. Well, they met, and they met within the period of the preparation of the marriage because the parents had gone ahead to prepare. And in fact, I don't know, the parents kind of were so sure and went ahead. And thankfully, when they met within the period of preparation of the marriage, they happened to like each other. She said she saw him and it was like love at first sight. She loved him, liked him, and then he too liked her. And that was it. And they've been married almost 30 years marriage going on. And that was how they met. Total strangers who ended up, becoming spouses. And I know many of us watch some reality shows where total strangers meet and they are given some days to see if they could connect. And then after so many days, if they are able to connect, they get what? Married. And interestingly, the aspects of strangers to spouses I want to look at this evening happened in the Bible. I'm sure we all heard of the story of Isaac and Rebekah. Well, it's a pure story of what? Strangers to spouses. Isaac never met Rebekah. Rebekah never met Isaac. Father Abraham sent his servants somewhere, and the servant saw Rebekah, liked Rebekah, organized for Rebekah, paid dowry, settled everybody. Rebekah now followed him to where Isaac was. The story can be found in Genesis chapter 24, verse 61 to 67. I want us to read it. I love reading scriptures. You know why? Sometimes when you read alone, a word can jump at you that would meet you in a way that I might not even talk about. It will now become your own special word for the season, okay? So let's read some scripture. Genesis chapter 24, verse 61 to 67. Then Rebekah and her mates got ready. By this time, the servant had met and settled everybody. And they called Rebekah, would you want to go? She said, yes, she's ready to go. And then verse 61, then Rebekah and her mates got ready and mounted their camels and went back with the man. So the servant took Rebekah and left. Now Isaac had come from there, Lahariah, for he was living in Negev. He went out to the field one evening to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac. She got down from her camel and asked the servant, who is that man in the field coming to meet us? You can imagine she didn't even know the man that's meant to be her husband. She had to ask to confirm. We are even blessed these days. We can have pictures to show. There was no picture, so she didn't even know his face. So who is that man that is coming to meet us? And the servant answered, he is my master. The servant answered. So she took her veil and covered herself. Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. Can you imagine that? Somebody had never met, arranged, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So it is very possible to move from total strangers to being happily married spouses. It is very, very possible. Now, come to think of it on a broader perspective. On the average, most people met first as strangers and eventually married. Check out most of the married people, except for those who maybe grew up in the same community, or those who married people they grew up together with. On the average, it's like we all married strangers. People maybe we never really met. The difference here is that we had the opportunity or the privilege of going into courtship, deciding if we wanted to marry them or not. That's the privilege, that's the difference. But like I said earlier on, I'll be looking at this topic today from the perspective of people who never really had time to do courtship before the marriage. Call it arranged marriage, yes. And is it still happening? Yes, it is happening. I learned it's common in India. It is also common in the northern and eastern part of Nigeria. It's really prevalent in the northern and eastern part of Nigeria. They still do it. From the east, a man can be in the city, the parents will just organize, package a wife and send to him, or package a wife and send to meet him overseas. And he goes on and they are just meeting for the first time. Now, is it still happening in this generation? Yes, very much so. Especially, like I said, in the northern and the eastern region of Nigeria, especially. Now, would there be challenges to such kind of marriage, arranged marriages? Do they have challenges? Are there challenges? Should they expect challenges in arranged marriages? Of course, yes. There will be challenges. Even marriages that, couples had the privilege of doing courtship for years, after they get married, have challenges. How much less, people who didn't have that privilege of courting to know each other. Now, the question is, what are the challenges that arranged marriages could have? What kind of challenges could come up from arranged marriages? Number one challenge is the fear of what? Rejection. Both of them will not be sure, will this person accept me? Will this person like me? Will I be pleasing? Because they don't know the kind of person, they've not had opportunity maybe to talk and interact that much. So that our first fear of rejection will be there, and they kind of hold him back. So you find the two people might be coming into the marriage not confident that they would be acceptable to each other. It's a challenge, because relating with somebody you are not sure accepts you, really loves you, it could be challenging, because at the initial point they will all be very careful, not knowing what to do and what not to do, and then that fear of rejection could be there. Then number two challenge is inability to bond, especially if one party did not want the marriage. Take for example, where maybe a girl was already liking a boy around, but the parents prevailed and insisted for her to marry whosoever they had decided they wanted her to marry, or they want her to marry. That girl will be going, resisting whosoever she's going to be meeting. So they might not be able to bond, because she might just build a wall and make it impossible or difficult for them to bond together. So probability of such marriages failing could be higher, especially in the case where the girl or one of the parties is not really interested. And then the third reason is that the bonding process could also be difficult, because they lack knowledge of each other and will not have opportunity to take a break, to cool off. The bonding process could be difficult because they lack knowledge. Now, it's easier to relate with somebody that over time you've known what the person likes, what the person doesn't like. So if you have been able to talk about issues, and then you understand each other to some extent, even though I normally say there's no end to knowing the person. Now, getting married to somebody you know to some extent is actually easier to bond with and work out marriage than with somebody you really, really don't know. So the bonding process could be a bit difficult because they really don't know each other. And now they won't have that privilege of what courtship affords for couples who are trying to bond. Now, in courtship, when the challenge comes up, maybe two of you have issues and you get angry with each other, or you quarrel, and then that break, you get angry, you get up and you go to where your own house, the other person goes to his or her own house. That time frame could give the two of you time to think over the process or think over what happened, and then you can decide to change your mind. And then by the time you are seeing where you went wrong because of the space, and now you see the two people don't have that privilege because they're already married, they're in the marriage, and because they're in the marriage, that when things come up, they don't have that space that comes in handy to help you think over things. While you are upset, you are still seeing the person around, which is what marriage can handle if two of you are, been able to bond. But here you are in the process of bonding, you don't even have an opportunity to take a break from the person to be able to think through and work things out. That could be a challenge. And then the next challenge is that the whosoever arranged the marriage, the allegiance of either of the couple, either the man or the woman, will be more to the parents or whosoever arranged the marriage. Take, for example, if the parents of the girl, the parents of the boy arranged the girl for the boy, naturally her first allegiance will be to the parents of the husband, and vice versa. So you find that allegiance in marriage is sweeter when it's first and foremost to each other. But now, because it's an arranged marriage, that's one challenge that could come up if care is not taken. The allegiance of either of the spouse might be to whosoever arranged the marriage. And then the next challenge that could come up, and if not well handled, could be a problem, is where the young man wasn't really interested or in the person, or didn't like the person the parents arranged, and out of respect went ahead to marry the person. The man might want to go and look out for his own choice. He might not want to go and look out for his choice, and so that could give birth to what? Infidelity, and because he wants to make his own choice, and he might not treat the lady well because he felt she was imposed on him. So these are some of the challenges that could come up. Now, the question is, how do we handle all of these challenges? What do you do if you find yourself in an arranged marriage where you are not given an opportunity to make a choice of who you wanted? The person maybe was imposed on you. You just found yourself in the marriage. What do you do? Number one thing you should do is accept the reality you find yourself in. When we accept the situation we find ourselves in, getting solution to the situation becomes easier. Now, this is a situation. You couldn't resist your parents. They've done it. You could not put your feet down to say, no, I won't go on with this. You agreed. They carried you to the man's house. You are now in the man's house, so you opened the door and the woman came in. Fine. That's the reality of your life. Prepared or unprepared, you will now have a spouse. So accept it. Accept it as a reality you found yourself. Accepting it, like I said, will create an open, an environment where it will be easier for you to at least give opportunity to see if you could like the person, to see if two of you could bond. So accept the reality of the situation you found yourself in. Number two, what do? Be open to build friendship. After all, everybody met as a stranger. The person that is your best friend today, you met the person as a stranger. So now you are in an arranged marriage. The person has come to stay, or you opened your door to allow the person in. Do yourself a world of good and be open to build what? Friendship. And the Bible says a man that must have friends must first show himself what? Friendly. So open up. Making friends is a choice, You open up, begin to create the environment for the friendship. You're already married. And the truth be told, I normally say this, one of the best form of relationship you could have in marriage is friendship. So now you are in an arranged marriage. Why don't you create room for friendship? Try and be friendly. Begin to show some kindness. Begin to try to talk to the person. Begin to, do things that will help the two of you, create friendship. You can build friendship. Total strangers can meet and become friends. In fact, sometimes in a bus ride, you can just meet somebody in a bus or even in the plane. It happens. But it's better you're sitting, you begin to talk. By 10, 12, you begin to talk. You find that you have common interests before you begin to know what's happening. You're exchanging cards and all of that. So be open to build what? Friendship. Don't just lock up. The person is already, two of you are already married. So don't lock up. Let's still give yourself the opportunity to make friends. And it can happen. Friendship happens. It happens. So this be open up to build friendship. Number three, know that you are doing your own courtship in marriage. You must be sensitive to that. You are now doing courtship in marriage, meaning that you are just getting to know yourself. That means two of you must be ready to excuse each other. It's a fact you must not forget. Because if you forget it, you begin to expect from each other much more than you can handle, or much more than the person can offer. You are just getting to know yourself. So tell yourself, oh, We are married, but we are actually doing courtship. What do you do in courtship? In courtship, we try to get to know each other better. So keep telling each other that we are married, but we are actually doing what? Courtship. And for that to happen, when you have that in your mind, you find yourself making excuses. You begin to make a lot of excuses for each other. And please don't think like husband and wife as much as say, yes, you're married, but don't let marriage be up there. Let courtship be up there, because you are actually going to be doing your courtship in what? In marriage. So for the first few months, at least, be fiancé and fiancé. And I want to say this, please don't rush to have babies. The coming of babies has its own challenge for people who are already bonded. And the challenge will be greater if the two of you are not yet fully bonded. So don't rush. The babies will come. But I would counsel you, don't rush to have babies, so that you can give each other time to bond and get to know each other better. Don't forget you are doing courtship in marriage, and you don't think of babies during courtship, right? So don't forget that. Then what next you do? Point number 4, make up your minds to be open and transparent to each other. Now, your marriage is peculiar. So if you decide to start hiding, you might never really get to know each other, and the bonding might not be strong enough for marriage to be thick, for your marriage to be thick. So what would you do? Be open. You are now married, you've come together. Be open, be truthful, because you're trying to help each other understand each other better. There's no point to be stronger than people in courtship, because you are already married. There's nothing more you're afraid of. You're not afraid that the courtship will break. So be open and what? Transparent as much as possible. Then point number 5 on what to do if you find yourself, in an arranged marriage. Choose to love each other. You see, love is not just a feeling, it's a choice. It's a choice we make. If you really genuinely want to love and retain love, it's a choice. You choose to love each other, because love is not just beyond the feeling, it's action packed. So you must choose to love each other. That's where you begin to choose to be kind. You choose to not to be rude. You choose to be patient with each other. You choose to be gentle. When you begin to do all of these things, what happens? You find yourself being attracted to each other. You see, when you love genuinely, when you find you connect, you begin to connect. So please choose to love. Choose to love. Be deliberate and intentional in acting good and well towards each other. I haven't said that I haven't shown you what you should do. Now that you're in an arranged marriage, when you do all of this, what are you doing? You are creating an environment to build what? Intimacy. So how do you go about building intimacy in an arranged marriage? Number 1, be deliberate and intentional to make it work. So you see, you just be deliberate, be intentional. So this is the time when you want to jump on each other. You jump, intentionally and deliberately. And when you keep doing it with time, it now begins to flow. Number 2, go out on dates. Just go out, deliberate and intentional to go out on dates. Going out on dates helps you. You go out, you see things together that now become stories and memories that you can share. And having memories to share has a way of bonding people together. So go out on dates, make it a regular part of your relationship. It helps to build intimacy. Go out to places, go to the movies, to watch movies, go out there to eateries, go out on dates that will create memories that will help the relationship get very strong together. You have to be intentional. Now, the difference now between you and maybe those who were friends before they got married is that you have to be deliberate and very, very intentional about doing positive things and actions that will help build what? Intimacy. Then one way again to build intimacy is connect with each other's friends. Now, 2 of you just came together and then began to live as husband and wife. But if you are able to bring in some very good friends, the man has some good friends who he had connected to, you begin to introduce your friends to each other. It helps the bonding. It helps. Now you are connecting beyond the two of you to and extending your connections to friends, people who make you happy, people who you have memories to share together with. And then when you do that, you find, yeah, you are actually building a forum where, beyond talking about just the two of you, you have other people you can talk about and feel free to relate to it. So connect with each other's friends is important. It helps to build what? Intimacy. Then gist each other about your growing up. It's a good time. Gisting, that is talking, telling people about how you grew up, the things that made you happy, the things that made you cry. Talk about your family. Intimacy. The more, the more depths or the more secret you know about a person that you love, the more intimate and the more connected you feel towards that person. Yes. So learn to gist. Let the gist flow. Don't hold back. Tell each other things, and then play a lot. That's the next thing. Play a lot. Hold hands. Do a lot of hugging. Play a lot. Playing a lot. All of that would really, really help the relationship grow. It will help the two of you, get to the point where you are excited and happy. Be deliberate about doing things to comfort each other. It's important. Talking about Isaac and Rebecca, the Bible said he brought her in. He brought her in to the mother's tent. So you must be deliberate in bringing each other in. Bring yourself into each other's life. It has to be intentional and deliberate. Yes, you're married, but you didn't have the opportunity to do all of this. So this is a good time. Bring each other in to each other's life. Bring each other in. And then he loved her. Oh, that is beautiful. Like I said, the love, you must choose to love. And then what did he do? He was comforted. He was comforted. So that's why you must be there to comfort each other. You must be there to embrace each other, to be there for each other, make each other very happy. It has to be what? Deliberate and intentional. You are working at it. It's important you do that. I believe when you do all of these things, you're going to be building intimacy, and it might amaze you that very soon you forget that you were even arranged. Like the lady I told you about, that their marriage is almost 30 years. If you see the two of them, you won't believe their marriage was arranged, that they only had few weeks while preparing for the marriage to really get to know each other. Jokingly, I asked her, I said, what would you have done if you discovered that you didn't like him? She closed her eyes and said, well, I don't want to think about that, because the moment I saw him, I liked him. So please, when you do all of this, what will happen? It will help the intimacy level. Now, I want to conclude this teaching, and in concluding this teaching, I want to talk to the parents or parents who believe in arranged marriages. The times and seasons are changing. Like I said, it's working for some people. For some people, I deliberately didn't talk about people it didn't work for, because there were some people who it didn't work for. The marriage ended in divorce, or the girl got up and ran away, or the man ran away and left the girl. Either way, it failed. But I want to say this to parents who believe in arranged marriage, who want to do arranged marriage for their children. Number one thing I want to say to you is, please learn to carry your children along. Why? Because you won't be there with them. After you've connected them, they have themselves to work it out. So carry them along. Like if you look at the story of Rebecca, the parents asked her, do you want to go? Are you interested? Would you want to do this? So don't force it on your children. You have a person, you state what you want, carry them along. If you carry them along, there's a way you will talk about the person, there's a way you talk about the family that your child will even buy into it. And then please, I beg you, don't insist and enforce it. Make it easy for the children, because marriage is a tax, a difficult tax on its own, when you even make a choice of the person yourself. Much more now that somebody is making the choice for you. I want parents to understand that. So please give them that privilege of choosing to. You've made the choice. let them, carry them along, sell your idea to them, and then also find out, would you really want to go on with this my arrangement? Now, having said that, the next thing I want the parent to do is, the moment you do the connection, please step aside. Don't be there to want to monitor it, because you are the one. So you now want to have control either over the young girl or over the young man. And the moment they connect, step aside. If you really want the marriage to work, tell them, okay, I brought the two of you together. Please, don't come to me. Two of you should work it out yourself. It goes a long way to help them, remove that feeling of, I need to be, my allegiance needs to be to you because you connected me. So the parents or whoever did the arrangement should step aside. If you really want the marriage to work, leave them alone. You've done your bits. God has used you to bring them together. Excuse them and let them be able to work it out. Now, having said this, I want to say, conclude by saying, marriage arranged or unarranged needs to be worked out. Whether your marriage was arranged or unarranged, if the two of you must move from being strangers to being spouses, then you must do what? You must be prepared, deliberate, intentional to work it out. Honestly, a lot of the principles that are outlined here, if you choose to use it, even if your marriage was not arranged, you find that your marriage will work out easier. So the important thing, like I said at the point while talking, we all began as strangers. For those of us who met and now courted, we were strangers once before we became friends, and then went in to do courtship. So either way, the important thing is when you marry, choose to make it work. Is it possible to make it work? Very, very possible. Now, how do you make it work? Go by the principles as outlined by the word of God. All I've said to us is outlined in the word of God. You can see it in the way Isaac and Rebekah went about their own. The truth is, marriages fail when people disregard the principles as outlined for God by God. God instituted marriage. He knows what will make it work. So I beg us, begin to learn to work with the principle as outlined by God. And then we'll find that marriage is not as difficult as we think it is. The Lord bless you. The Lord cause his face to shine upon you. The Lord help and increase you more and more. And I declare by faith, your marriage will not fail. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. God bless you.